I think this was the last equation, yeah? We did?
Yes, ma'am, that's asking you.
Yeah. So this is, we discussed about the Raoult's law and we discussed modified form of calculating total pressure, and also we got an equation using Dalton's law which is connects partial pressure and total pressure in terms of mole fraction in vapor phase. That is was mentioned, denoted by letters Y1 and Y2. And now, if you look into Raoult's law, now you can see that it is a special case of Henry's law only. What was Henry's law? What was the Henry law states? What was the definition of Henry law? What is how it was the law was stating?
The partial pressure of the gas is
Hmm.
equal to the
Partial pressure of a gas is directly proportional to its small fraction of the same gas, right? It was a gas getting dissolved in a liquid, right? So it was only difference is that this is a gas which is directly proportional to its mole fraction, or you can write it as Pg, that is partial pressure of a gas is equal to Kh into mole fraction of the gas. So this was the equation showing like Henry's law. So here there is a showing a relationship between partial pressure of a gas directly proportional to its mole fraction. But what is Raoult's law? What is Raoult's law? Raoult's law shows what you can say relation between
partial pressure, partial vapor pressure, and then vapor pressure of pure solid.
Yeah, so here you can see again the definition is partial vapor pressure directly proportional to its mole fraction. If you look into the definition, it is partial vapor pressure of a one component is directly proportional to mole fraction of that component. So if you're talking about a solvent or a solute, whatever, the partial vapor pressure is directly proportional to its mole fraction, or you can write it as an equation P1 is equal to P10 chi1. So what you can see is like one is only for gas. Henry's law was defining a gas getting dissolved in a liquid. But here the only difference to the Raoult's law is that it is about a vapor. The vapor state, right? The partial pressure, vapor pressure of vapors from the liquid solution, right? So that is a major difference between Henry's law and Raoult's law. And you can see that the Henry's law constant Kh is almost equal to, that is only replaced with P10. That is the only change when you look into the two equations. Basically partial pressure or of a gas or partial vapor pressure of a vapors in the liquid solution directly proportional to its small fraction. This is the essence of both the equation. In both the law, they says that pressure is directly proportional to its mole fraction. Pressure of a gas dissolved in a liquid, that is what Henry's law. Partial pressure of vapors inside the liquid solution, that is what Raoult's law. So only thing is about slight change in the condition. Other than that, both of them are defining in the same way. That is what we can say, that Raoult's law is actually a special case of Henry's law. It's a special case of Henry's law. No need to write it down. I will upload the notes, so at that time you can read and learn. But because this is just like a general thing, the different similarities you can find when you look into both the
Ma'am,
laws.
so no need to write this?
You can write it later. Once you are referring like the notes and the textbook. Okay?
Ma'am, when will you upload the notes?
Try to upload it today or by tomorrow. Yeah. The last part of Raoult's law, or as I said earlier, I got three different cases. First case was when I took a pure solvent inside a container, closed container, and we defined what is vapor pressure. Then the second case was two different liquids, volatile liquids were mixed together, and we discussed about its total vapor pressure and partial vapor pressure in terms of Raoult's law. Now the third case, here the difference is that you're taking again a closed container and you're taking a solvent And this time, instead of a liquid solute, you're adding a solid solute. That means this is a kind of a solution where you are adding a non-volatile solid solute into a liquid. So how this addition of a solid solute make a difference in the vapor pressure? What will happen to the vapor pressure? Say example, you got pure water and you're adding sodium chloride to it. Sodium chloride does not have an ability to vaporize. It's a non-volatile liquid. It will not volatile by themselves, right? So such kind of solute if you're adding, what will happen to the vapor pressure of water when it is a salt solution when it was in the pure form? So you say example, you're taking 100 ml of water in a closed container, so it has got a vapor pressure. The same 100 ml of water, but this time you're adding 10 gram of salt as well. So that means it's a salt solution now, right? So what will be the difference in the vapor pressure when a solution or a solvent is pure and when it is part of a solution where you have added a non-volatile solute, a solid in it? What will happen to the vapor pressure? You can see the diagram A and B, and that diagram is self-explanatory. Diagram A says that it's a pure solvent, and you can see the vapor phase of vapor state of that pure solvent was there. So that is what vapor pressure. But in the case of second diagram B, it is a solute and solvent, and solute is a non-volatile solid. It's a solid solute dissolved, which is a non-volatile. It can't vaporize. It's not volatile. So what has happened? The number of vapors formed is decreased, right? When you compare, right? If less numbers of vapors are produced, then what will happen to vapor pressure? Decreases, because less vapors mean less pressure exerted by them on the liquid, right? So what is the reason? Both of them are same amount of liquid, same amount of water. One was a pure water, other case it is pure water which has got added with a solute like sodium chloride or something, which is non-volatile. So why the vapor, the amount of vapors or the number of vapors formed is less when you are adding, when you are taking a solution? What is really happening here?
The non-volatile substances don't let.
Yeah, as you can see in the diagram, it's very clear that green color is what's shown by solute, right? Which is non-volatile. It is there on the surface and it is not allowing the vaporization of the solvent to do normally like how it was free. So when it is free as a solvent, pure solvent, it can go freely vaporize and there will be as much as vapors possible can be there inside the container. But here the problem is that here it's not only pure solvent, there is solute also, and the solute particle will not allow more solvent particle to undergo vaporization, right? More vapors are not forming. So less number of vapor produced or formed inside the container mean less pressure. Less pressure exerted by vapor, that means vapor pressure decreases. So that is the first point you can say. In case of non-volatile solute, the vapor pressure of a solution is lower than that of the pure solvent. When you take a pure solvent, there will be more vapors produced. More vapors produced mean more vapor pressure. But in the case of a solution where the solute is non-volatile, if it is a volatile solute, that is a different case. Because solute also will vaporize and its vapors also will be forming vapor pressure. That is a different case. But here the solute is non-vaporizable, but it stays in the solution and will not allow the vapors, solvent molecule to vaporize freely. So that means the less number of solvent in the vapor form, so less vapor pressure. So vapor pressure of water decreases when you add a solute. This is a very important point. The next topic of colligative property, this is where we are starting. When you add a non-volatile solute to a solvent, its vapor pressure decreases. This is very important point to be noted. Okay. In case of a non-volatile solute, vapor pressure of a solution is lower than that of the pure solvent. That means if you want to compare 100 ml pure water and 100 ml salt solution, then you can say 100 ml salt solution will have less vapor pressure than the 100 ml of pure water, right? So this decrease in vapor pressure is because less vaporization of the solvent in case of presence or due to the presence of a solute inside the solution. So less vapors formed mean less vapor pressure. Yeah. And here also you can apply the Raoult's law, because here there will be in terms of only one component, because your solute is not a vaporizable substance. So you can write it in terms of only one component. Partial vapor pressure or partial vapor pressure will be equal to its mole fraction. It will be P1 naught, okay? It will be P1 naught. And the graph is with just only one line because there is no solute. Solute is not vaporizing, so you don't have the other line. There is only one thing.
Ma'am, when you're adding a volatile solute, does it always increase?
No, in volatile case, total vapor pressure will be may increase or decrease. That is again depends on the type of solute you're adding. Like how much is its vaporizing tendency? Is it more than the solute or more than the solvent? Like that.
Okay, ma'am.
That's why that's actually a lot of discussion is required in that area, but that is not there. You just have a very basic, what you can say, topic in this section. Not in detail discussion is required. So that's what I told you. We will be discussing 3 different cases in vapor pressure. First is pure solvent. Second is liquid solutions. Both are volatile and 2 liquids mixed together, just like alcohol and water mix. And this is the third case where a solvent plus a non-volatile solute in solid state. Like how you add NaCl to water. That's what you can take as a common example. Because NaCl is a non-volatile substance. So you can add NaCl to the water and it will become a salt solution. So in such cases, always the solution will have lower vapor pressure than the pure solvent. That is the point. This is an important point to be noted here. Vapor pressure always decreases. So vapor pressure of a solvent always decreases when you add a solute which is non-volatile to it. And here also Raoult's law can be applicable, like partial vapor pressure is directly proportional to its mole fraction. As here there is only one volatile component, that is the solvent. Write only one, like one equation. P1 is equal to chi1 into P10. And the graph is also with one line. Is that clear? Actually, this is what we need to discuss under vapor pressure and Raoult's law. And this is what, very small thing only, but we have gone through all the minute detail, as I said, because it can be there in numericals. Any part of it. Graph also same graph of Raoult's law only, but you have only one line because only one component, volatile component. Because Raoult's law is applicable only for a volatile component. If you are adding sodium chloride, you can't write it in terms of sodium chloride because it's not volatile. In the previous case, both the liquids are volatile. That's why you have got 2 graphs in the same thing.
Also, P1 naught is constant or is not?
P1 naught will be constant for a particular constant. That means vapor pressure of water at 35 degree will be a constant value. Like vapor pressure of alcohol at 35 degree will be a constant always.
So will the constant be higher with the temperature or lower with temperature?
Which one?
The constant P1 naught. If for like say for alcohol example, will it be higher at 40 degrees Celsius or at like
What do
20
you
degrees
think
Celsius?
will happen to the vapor formation when the temperature increases? At higher
Mm,
temperature, vaporization will be more or less.
it'll be more, right? So,
Vapor pressure should be increasing. That is what you might have seen that last year we discussed about boiling point, and we defined boiling point as the temperature at which vapor pressure of a liquid equals to the atmospheric pressure.
yes, ma'am.
Temperature increases, more vapor pressure, and finally when it becomes atmospheric pressure, it starts boiling. That is what the boiling point. Yeah. So vapor pressure always increases
Yes,
with
ma'am, I
temperature
understood.
because more
Yeah.
vaporization. Yeah. Okay. I hope it is clear to all of you the entire concept, the three different cases we discussed, and Raoult's law. Okay. This is the question which I have to discuss with you in detail. So first write down the question and read, and it's actually got two different sections, two different part of it. So we need to discuss one by one. This is one
Ma'am,
of the
when you say
yeah.
three different cases, like the first one is with a volatile solute, then second one.
First one is pure solvent. That is
Okay.
how we define vapor pressure. Second is liquid solutions, and third one is this one with a solvent with a non-volatile solid solute.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, also, does the vapor pressure depend on the structures of the compounds, like for based on like is it double bond or single bond or something like that? Is it
That's
related to it?
it depends on its volatility, okay, ability to undergo. That means volatility depends on intermolecular force of attraction. If the particles are holding them, then they don't have ability to vaporize, right? So it's rather than structure or bonding, it is based on the intermolecular force of attraction. Between the molecule, how they got a connection. If a weak connection between the molecule, they have a tendency to undergo vaporization more easily. That means it depends on its volatility.
Ma'am, so more intermolecular strength means it'll go get higher vapor pressure, right?
It's reverse. That means if the intermolecular force of attraction is strong, mean they will not vaporize very easily, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Because there is a force of attraction between the molecule, so they won't vaporize. If they don't vaporize, there is won't be vapor pressure.
Okay.
So vapor pressure of chloroform CHCl3 and dichloromethane at 298 Kelvin are 200 millimeter mercury. This is the value separately for chloroform and dichloromethane. Calculate the vapor pressure of the solution prepared by mixing 25.5 gram of chloroform and 40 gram of dichloromethane. So first solve the first part, then you can go for the mole fraction of each component in vapor phase. So how can you solve this question? First, always write it down. What are the information? If you're getting confused with so many things in the questions, too much information in a numerical, always it's better to write down the given data so that it will be easy to take whenever, whatever the value required, rather than directly every time referring to the question in the question paper. Always take out, extract what are the important information. So they said that you have got two liquids, so chloroform and dichloromethane. So it's automatically understood. Two, it's a liquid solution. Both are volatile. Okay, and in the pure form, that is, if you see that it is 40 gram of dichloromethane and 25.5 gram of chloroform. So which is solute and which one is solvent?
Ma'am, CH2Cl2 is solvent.
Yeah, actually you can put 1 and 2 in any order, no issues. If you're taking 1, then throughout that solving the question, it should be taken as 1. There is no compulsory that you take this as 1 or that as 1. But it will be always good if you follow the same, what we can say, numbering in all the numericals, so that you'll be comfortable in using that. So the partial pressure of pure chloroform, that is CHCl3, 0. Pure, that is what given in the question. What is that? Value is 200, right?
Yes, sir.
200 millimeter mercury. Millimeter mercury is actually a unit of pressure, right? Then you have dichloromethane in the pure form, that is 0, that is equal to 415. And the first part of the question is to calculate the vapor pressure of the solution, mean calculate the total vapor pressure. So PT is what you need to calculate in the first part.
Ma'am, so you have to find mole fractions, right, of both the
Yeah.
compounds.
So you need to calculate the mole fraction of chloroform and dichloromethane separately.
And so you have to find the moles of each compound.
Yeah. So do
using
that part.
the molar mass of the compound.
So first calculate the molar mass for chloroform and dichloromethane. When you're fasting, no? Sleep. Too much talking. Yeah. Yeah. So calculate the molar mass of chloroform and dichloromethane. That will be the first thing. So first is CHCl3. What will be the molar mass? Carbon is 12 and chlorine you take it as 35.5.
Mom, you should drink some water if your throat is dry.
I'm fast.
Nah, mom, but mom, if you're sick, mom, you shouldn't fast.
No, actually not. It's not. I'm sick. I don't know. It suddenly started because I was having continuous class. Just give me a minute.
Ma'am, we can do a couple of questions. Like you don't need to stay. We're into the questions.
What is 4 is around? Huh? 4 is 24. What is 4 in the molar mass?
I don't know. I don't mean so. Slow is yeah, slow is 35. Slow is right. Slow yeah.
You see, I don't get it. Yeah, I think it's 14. Okay. What is 35? It's awesome. You can have it. You want my book?
Anyway, solve this question. Will continue in tomorrow's class. Okay. This is actually a board exam. You will find it in the textbook, but similar question, meaning by just changing the values, you will find repeatedly asked in many years in board exam.
All right, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
bye.
Thank you, ma'am.